What's up, guys? Pete here. Hope you're doing well. Man, I wanted to talk about something. I saw a question come in here, and a gentleman asked, hey, I'm doing all the things I think I should be doing. I'm posting to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I am writing for my blog regularly, and yet I still don't have a client. So, this gentleman has been working on what he thinks is marketing, filling the funnel for sales, and he hasn't sold a single coaching session yet. And it sounded like he didn't even have any free beta sessions, the free trainings, the training on the job type of sessions. And my problem with this is I looked at it and it's one of those things where it's like a gut punch because it's so obvious to me, and I think it's obvious to a lot of people. And if you've had small business experience in the past, you know that there's a phrase that getting a phone doesn't mean it will ring, right? So there are a lot of things that we think are checking the boxes in terms of setting up a small business, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a sole proprietor. And we think if we do these things that the phone will ring. And it's kind of one of these temptations. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but you go into a store, and I was thinking about this. I went into a local locksmith here to have a key copied for myself. And as I was in there, the phone rang a couple times, and you think, hey, if you just open a locksmith store, get a phone, have a bunch of keys on the wall, that phone is going to ring. And in some cases, it might. In the world of yellow pages, that's what people might have done. They just go down the list and locksmith and they call that number. But in the current world, that doesn't really work. Having all these tools, having an Instagram page and a Facebook page and a TikTok channel, none of that necessarily means that you'll get the sale because it's table stakes, right? Everyone's doing it. And I think what we have here, especially if you're a financial coach, counselor, those types of things, you are doing something that is high trust and relationship based, right? And sometimes it's expertise based. But what we're doing here is we're selling our expertise and the fact that someone can trust us. And I think about it in the financial advisor sense because I came from that world. What you will notice is that you will notice a ton of commercials, advertising, marketing by financial advisor companies, Ameriprise and Fidelity, Merrill Lynch, and any of the big companies are out there, and they have these wonderful commercials. And what they usually are doing is branding, right? They aren't necessarily trying to convert you into the relationship with a financial advisor. They are saying, hey, we are big, we're trusted, we've been around forever, we've got great products, we've got great advisors. So all that is branding. And so that's what I think a lot of people are trying to do, is that they're working on branding. They're not really working on sales. They're in that marketing sphere. What you don't necessarily see a lot are individual advisors on those commercials. Now, State Farm is a little bit different. They've had an individual advisor in some of those commercials where they're working with the client, like, the client drives into a pothole. I think it's actually an interesting angle from State Farm's perspective. They don't do that a lot, but you might remember those commercials. The problem is there's no way to run commercials for the 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 advisors that you have, right? You can't build that relationship over a television screen. And so when you are talking about those individual advisors, I think you will see that a lot of their prospects are not being driven into their offices from those commercials. What they are doing is they're going out and they get a little bit of an advantage by saying, hey, I'm with Ameriprise, or I'm with Thrivent, or I'm with, Fidelity, or whatever it is, right? And you get that brand name recognition, and that helps open up the conversation to saying, oh, I know that company, and I don't have to have that conversation about what that company does. Now, if you're with a small company, if you're maybe with ABC Insurance and you're doing it on your own, you might have that conversation. And so you're doing some of that brand building in that conversation initially. So what that big marketing, that national marketing campaign does is just kind of short circuit that introductory conversation you have. But it doesn't necessarily drive people through your door. And so what you're doing as that advisor is now you're building that relationship. You've got the leg up. You don't have to have that conversation, but now you can tell people why they should trust you, how long you've been in the business, what unique expertise or what unique perspectives you bring to the conversation. And then people will say, okay, now I'm interested. And then you will ask, say as the advisor, hey, why don't you come in? Well, can we sit down? Can I buy you a cup of coffee? Come on in for a Coke, whatever it might be. You're asking for that sale, not the sale of a product, the sale of the connection. And what I see here is in this gentleman's question, the issue is that you're doing all of these digital things and you're all in the branding world, and yet there isn't really the ask for the sale. Now, you might say, well, in the post, I'm saying, hey, to set up a free initial phone call, blah, 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 blah. That's not sales, right? That is a call to action, certainly. And you might get stuff. I'm not saying that if you don't put enough stuff out there, some people might come in from it, play the numbers game. But what people are missing is that this is a relationship business built heavily on trust. And so that means that if you are interested in working with that person and they're interested in working with you, you have to ask for it, right? You can't put it on the client to be proactive to call in and set up that appointment. You've got to say, hey, are you available next Tuesday or next Friday for a quick conversation, right? It's got to be partially sales. Now, if you have a really good marketing machine, maybe you can do this. And there are companies like Purple Mattress and stuff like this that have gone to $1 billion and they've done mostly online. But I tell you what, there isn't really a trust factor for a lot of these product companies. It's just, am I sold on the product? And you do enough online marketing and Facebook ads and the numbers work, right? There's return on investment. But that's not the business we're in. We're in a trust business. And the only way that you can really convert on a trust business is to actually ask the person you're speaking with. Now, you can do some of this digitally, and in a world like we're in right now, a lot of it will be online or over conference calls or over telephone calls. In a regular situation, you might be out networking. You might be at your son's soccer game or your daughter's gymnastic class or on a campground or wherever it might be. It doesn't really matter, but you've got to ask for that. You can't just put all of the digital stuff because everyone's doing it and just expect your phone to ring, expect your email account to be flooded. You've got to go out and ask for it. You've got to be proactive on it. And if you're not willing to do the sales part, I can tell you that the business is not going to flourish. And so you have to get over the idea of not being proactive. And in some ways, it's a good practice for when you get into those financial coaching and counseling calls, because you're going to be asking those people to do things. You're going to be almost encouraging them to do things. You're going to almost be demanding them to do things in a soft and in a motivated way. And so if you don't have that kind of relationship, then you might find it really hard to do coaching because it might be really passive. People might struggle with understanding what value you bring or what you're contributing to each of those conversations. So it's a good practice to figure out how that relationship is going to work. So you got to get out there and you got to sell. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to knock on doors, but if you want to do that, I can tell you that works too, or cold calling or any of that. But you've got to be able to ask when you have that opportunity, not just wait passively for it. So that's just my thought for today. If you're doing all the marketing, you're doing all the social media, you might get some stuff, but you've got to get to the individual person. I can tell you, you can do all the marketing and social media and filling the funnel type of stuff and never get any sales. And on the other hand, you can do none of that and go out there and ask everyone you meet if they'll work with you and do the sales, right? So you can see this marketing, filling the funnel stuff can help, but it's not necessary. You can still build the business without doing that. All right. So that's my advice for today. Take it or leave it. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you later.